Let me hit you with the raw, ugly truth. There is now H-I-N-G, and I mean now H-I-N-G, worse than being a quitter. You want to talk about weakness. You want to talk about disgrace. It's not losing. It's not failing. It's quitting. Because when you quit, you don't just lose, you surrender. You don't just fall. You give up the right to rise. You declare to the world, I was too weak to finish what I started. And that is the most pathetic title any human being can carry. Failure builds character, pain builds strength, struggle builds warriors, but quitting erases every ounce of effort you ever put in. You can stumble, you can break, you can crawl, but the moment you quit, you bury yourself alive. Quitting is not just a decision, it is a betrayal of yourself. It's not about the world. It's not about the people around you. It's not about the circumstances stacked against you. Quitting is personal. It's a declaration that you've surrendered, that you've chosen weakness over strength, that you'd rather drown than fight. And that is why quitting is poison. It's not a single moment. It's a seed that grows and spreads until it infects every part of your life. When you quit, you're not just walking away from a task. You're walking away from who you could have been. You're telling yourself that the pain of discipline, the grind of effort, the sacrifice of comfort wasn't worth it. And here's the ugly truth. The moment you quit, all the suffering you endured up to that point becomes meaningless. Every late night, every sacrifice, every drop of sweat, every tear, it all vanishes into nothing. Because quitting wipes the slate clean, but not in your favor. It leaves you with nothing but regret. Think about that. Every time you quit, you're teaching your mind that giving up is acceptable. And once that door is open, it never closes. It gets easier to quit the next time and easier after that until it becomes your default reaction to struggle. A quitter doesn't just quit once. They build quitting into their identity. They become the person who walks away when things get hard, the person who folds under pressure, the person who never finishes what they start. And deep down, they know it. That shame sits in their chest like a weight, haunting them every day. The brutal truth is this life is going to hurt. It's supposed to hurt. Struggle is the price of growth. Pain is the cost of progress. Every single person on this planet will face setbacks, failures, heartbreaks, and moments when quitting looks like the only option. But the strong, the ones who refuse to quit, understand that pain is temporary. They understand that the burn, the struggle, the agony is all part of the process of becoming more. Quitting doesn't end the pain, it multiplies it, because once you quit, you're left with the one pain that never heals regret. Picture yourself standing on the edge of your breaking point. Your body wants to stop. Your mind is screaming for relief. Everything inside of you begs to quit. But if you give in, if you fold, you'll never forgive yourself. Because somewhere inside you know the truth. You had more to give. You had more strength, more fight, more resilience. But you chose to throw it away. That choice doesn't just end that moment. It defines who you are. And if you let it, it will define the rest of your life. That's why quitting is unforgivable, not because the world judges you, but because you will never escape the judgment of yourself. Every time you look in the mirror, you'll know you surrendered. Every time you see someone succeeding, you'll wonder if that could have been you. If only you hadn't quit. That kind of regret buries people alive and it never lets go. So understand this: failing is fine, falling is fine, getting knocked down is fine, but quitting is the only thing that makes everything you did meaningless. It's the line that separates the weak from the strong, the broken from the unbreakable. And once you cross it, you can't go back. Quitting is easy. That's why so many people do it. That's why the world is filled with average, with mediocrity, with wasted talent and abandoned dreams. Because the truth is simple: it doesn't take strength to quit. It takes nothing. It's the coward's way out. But to keep going when everything in you is screaming to stop, that's rare, that's powerful. That's the line that separates greatness from failure. Look at the people who have built something meaningful, those who clawed their way from nothing to something. Do you think they had smooth roads? Do you think they were handed easy days? Absolutely not. They had nights where their minds told them, quit now, stop this madness. It's too hard. They had mornings when their bodies refused to move, when the weight of the world felt unbearable. But they didn't quit, they pushed through. And that is why they succeeded. The quitter always thinks, I'll try again someday. But someday never comes. Once you quit, you build that habit into your soul. You train your mind to seek the exit every time things get rough. And soon, quitting becomes second nature. You quit on your workout. You quit on your goals. You quit on your relationships. You quit on yourself. And before long, you are nothing but a shell of what you could have been. But the ones who refuse to quit, the ones who grit their teeth, clench their fists, and keep moving forward no matter the cost, they unlock a power that quitters will never know. Because strength isn't built in comfort, it's built in resistance. Discipline isn't forged in easy times, it's forged in moments of pure hell. When quitting is the most tempting option and you say, no, I will not stop, I will not fold, I will not quit. That's the line, that's the difference. Not talent, not luck, not intelligence. The difference between the ones who make it and the ones who don't is who quits and who refuses. You don't need to be the smartest. You don't need to be the fastest. You don't need to be the most gifted. You just need to outlast everyone else. You need to refuse to quit when everyone else has already given up. Quitting steals your future. It robs you of the victory you never gave yourself a chance to taste. And the cruelest part, you never know how close you were. You might have been one step away from success, one moment away from breakthrough, one day away from the reward you worked for. But you quit and you'll never know. That is the torment that eats quitters alive. The haunting thought of how close they were before they surrendered. So let it sink in. The difference between you and everything you want is not luck, not chance, not talent. It's your refusal to quit. Because if you never quit, you cannot lose. You may fall, you may struggle, you may bleed. But if you don't quit, you are still in the fight. And as long as you're still in the fight, victory is always possible. Quitting is an infection. Once you let it into your life, it spreads, it grows, it poisons every corner of your soul. It doesn't stop with one decision, one moment of weakness. No, quitting becomes your default setting. And from that moment on, you'll find yourself backing down when things get hard, running away when things get rough, Surrendering before the fight has even begun. Think about it. How many times in your life have you seen someone full of potential, someone who could have built something massive, someone who had the talent, the drive, the ability, but the second life turned up the heat, they folded. They didn't fail because they weren't capable. They failed because they quit. And that's the tragedy. Quitting has stolen more dreams than failure ever could. Failure teaches you. Failure strengthens you. Failure forces you to adapt, to sharpen yourself, to come back stronger. But quitting kills the story before it's ever written. And here's the most dangerous part. Quitting feels good in the moment. It feels like relief. You tell yourself, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And for a split second, the pressure is gone, the pain disappears, and you feel free. But that relief is a lie. That relief doesn't last. It turns into regret, into bitterness, into anger at yourself for not holding the line. You carry that decision forever. Every time you look in the mirror, you remember the time you backed down. Every time you see someone succeed, you feel the sting of knowing that could have been you if you had just refused to quit. Do you understand how brutal that reality is? To know that you had the ability, the chance, the opportunity, but you lack the will. That's the wound that never heals. That's the scar that burns for the rest of your life. And it doesn't just affect you. Quitting infects everything around you. Your family sees it. Your friends see it. The people who believed in you see it. And worst of all, you see it every single day. But the opposite is true as well. If you refuse to quit, if you stand your ground, no matter how much it hurts, you start to build a fire inside yourself. You begin to trust your own strength. You learn that you can endure more than you ever thought possible. You realize that no matter what comes your way, you can take the hit, you can keep moving forward, and you can finish what you started. That builds unshakable confidence, a belief in yourself that no one can touch. That's the difference. Quitters live haunted lives, forever chasing what could have been. But the ones who refuse to quit, those people live with pride, with fire, with the satisfaction that no matter what happened, no matter how many times they fell, they never backed down. They didn't give the enemy of doubt the victory. They stood, they fought, they endured, and they earned the right to hold their head high. So understand this: every single time you're tempted to quit, you're standing at a crossroads. One path leads to regret, shame, and wasted potential. The other leads to strength, victory, and the fulfillment of everything you were meant to be. The decision is yours, but don't fool yourself. The easy road of quitting is the most destructive road of all. Pain is temporary. Quitting is permanent. And then that's the brutal truth most people don't want to hear. They think if they walk away, if they quit, the pain will disappear. But it doesn't. It lingers. It follows you like a shadow, whispering in your ear, reminding you of the moment you gave up. Quitting doesn't erase pain, it multiplies it. Because not only do you still feel the sting of the struggle, now you carry the weight of regret. And regret is far heavier than any obstacle you will ever face. When you quit, you teach yourself weakness. You train your mind to run at the first sign of discomfort. Every time life gets tough, quitting becomes easier. And soon, you're not even fighting anymore. You're surrendering before the battle even begins. You've programmed yourself to accept less, to expect less, to be less, and make no mistake. That's exactly what quitting does. It takes everything you could have been and strips it away until there's nothing left but excuses and wasted potential. You've seen it. We all have. The person who had dreams bigger than life itself, but now they live in the past, talking about what they almost did, what they could have done, what they should have been. They tell stories about opportunities they once had, but they never finish the sentence with triumph. Why? Because they quit. And here's the most dangerous part. The more you quit, the more normal it becomes. You stop noticing how much you've given up. You stop realizing how much you've lost. Quitting becomes your lifestyle. And once that happens, you are done, finished, broken. But let me flip the script for you. When you refuse to quit, when you stare down the pain, the fear, the exhaustion, and you keep moving anyway, you unlock something most people will never find: your true strength. You realize that every single time you thought you were done, you weren't even close. You had more in the tank, more to give, more inside you, and every step you take past that breaking point makes you stronger, sharper, more dangerous, more unstoppable. That's why quitting is not just a choice, it's a betrayal of your dreams, a betrayal of your family, a betrayal of every single person who believed in you. But worst of all, it's a betrayal of yourself. You're selling yourself short. You're throwing away the one life you have because you couldn't take the pain. And let me tell you, that pain, it was temporary. It would have passed. The struggle would have ended. And what would have been left? Pride, strength, victory. But instead, by quitting, you traded all of that for regret. Understand this: quitting doesn't end the fight. It just guarantees your defeat. Refusing to quit doesn't mean the road gets easy. It means the road gets conquered. And when it's over, when the dust settles, when the war is finished, you will know that you stood your ground. You faced the fire and you endured. That's the difference between those who live with pride and those who die with regret. Quitting is easy. Staying down is easy. Giving up is easy. Anybody can throw in the towel. Anybody can run from the storm. Anybody can let life break them and accept defeat. But not you. Not if you're truly hungry. Not if you're truly serious about your dreams. The path you've chosen demands that you stand back up when you're crushed, that you keep walking when your legs are shaking, that you keep breathing when the air is ripped from your chest, because nothing, nanot, H-I-N-J, is worse than being a quitter. When you quit, you don't just stop chasing a goal, you bury a part of yourself alive. You kill the fire that was burning inside you. And once you've done that, once you've accepted that defeat, every single challenge that follows will look bigger, scarier, stronger, and you'll know deep down that you don't have the guts to face it. That's what quitting does. It brands you with weakness. It stamps your soul with cowardice, and that stain never leaves. But when you refuse to quit, when you embrace the grind, when you embrace the pain, when you keep moving forward, no matter how brutal it gets, you build an identity of resilience. You build a reputation of strength. You become the person who does not fold, does not break, does not run. You become the person who keeps swinging even when your back is against the wall, even when the odds are stacked, even when the world is screaming at you to stop. And that Tat is power. Every single person who ever reached greatness, every warrior, every fighter, every visionary, every giant who carved their name into history, they all had one thing in common. They refused to quit. They bled, they suffered, they sacrificed, but they never walked away. They understood that temporary pain is nothing compared to permanent regret. They knew that it is better to die on your feet chasing greatness than to live on your knees as a quitter. So what about you? Who do you choose to be? The one who gave up and faded away, or the one who stood tall and fought until the very last breath? The one who said, I can't, or the one who roared, I. The quitter who let life win, or the warrior who crushed every obstacle that dared to stand in the way? The choice is yours. But understand this clearly. If you quit, you'll spend the rest of your life haunted by the ghost of what could have been. If you quit, you'll never forgive yourself. If you quit, you'll prove to the world that you were never serious in the first place. But if you refuse to quit, if you keep pushing, keep fighting, keep clawing your way forward, you will rise. You will conquer. You will win, because nothing, and I mean now, Ashayenga, is worse than being a quitter. And if you've got even an ounce of fire left in your soul, you'll never let quitting define you. And now let me leave you with this. The world is watching you. Life is watching you. Every single challenge that stands in your way is waiting to see if you're going to break. And the question is, are you going to quit? Are you going to run when it gets hard? Are you going to fold like the weak, spineless cowards who never amounted to anything? Or are you going to stand your ground, grit your teeth, and fight until you have nothing left but blood, sweat, and victory? Quitting is the ultimate betrayal. It's spitting in the face of every dream you ever had. It's stabbing your future in the back. And if you dare let quitting define you, then you've already buried yourself alive. So hear me loud and clear. Not ING is worse than being a quitter. No, Taigang. When you quit, you give your pain permission to own you. When you quit, you give your fear permission to choke you. When you quit, you give your excuses the power to destroy you. But if you stand, if you rise, if you fight, if you claw, if you refuse to back down, then nothing, and I mean no China, can stop you. Not pain, not failure, not fear, not doubt, not ING. So decide right, GHT no bo. Burn quitting out of your soul. Rip it from your vocabulary. Erase it from your existence. Because if you ever even K about quitting again, you'd better remember this: quit once and you'll be haunted forever. But refuse to quit and you'll rise as a warrior no one can break. Now get out there and PROVIT